While all those organization men settled into harness, a much smaller group kicked over the traces. They were the Beats. They renounced everything the organization man stood for. They embraced poetry and jazz. They made a religion of nonconformity. Their high priest was Jack Kerouac, and their Bible was his new book that fall, On the Road.
I had traveled 8,000 miles around the American continent, and I was back on Times Square, and right in the middle of a rush hour, too. Seeing with my innocent road eyes the absolute madness and fantastic career of New York with its millions and millions hustling forever for a buck among themselves. A mad dream, grabbing, taking, giving, sighing, dying, just so they could be buried in those awful cemetery cities beyond Long Island City. The high towers of the land, the other end of the land, the place where paper America is born. The only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, burn, burn like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars, and in the middle you see the blue center light pop, and everybody goes, oh.
And pop goes the A-bomb. If the launch of Sputnik shocked us all in the fall of '57, continued atomic testing scared us. That fear of nuclear war was reflected that fall in a third book, a best-selling novel. In it, radiation clouds approach the last innocent victims of Armageddon. On the Beach by Nevil Shute.
I won't take it, she said vehemently. It's not fair. No one in the southern hemisphere ever dropped a bomb, a hydrogen bomb or a cobalt bomb or any other sort of bomb. We had nothing to do with it. Why should we have to die because other countries 9 or 10,000 miles away from us wanted to have a war? So bloody unfair. It's that all right, he said. That's the way it is. There was a pause. And then she said angrily, it's not that I'm afraid of dying, Dwight. We've all got to do that sometime. It's all the things I'm going to have to miss. She turned to him in the starlight. I'm never going to get outside Australia. All my life I've wanted to see the Rue de Rivoli. I suppose it's the romantic name. It's silly because I suppose it's just a street like any other street. But that's what I've wanted. And I'm never going to see it. Because there isn't any Paris now, or London, or New York. He smiled at her gently. The Rue de Rivoli may still be there with things in the shop windows and everything. I wouldn't know if Paris got a bomb or not. Maybe it's all there still, just as it was. With the sun shining down the street the way you'd want to see it. That's the way I like to think about that sort of place. It's just that folks don't live there anymore. She got restlessly to her feet. That's not the way I wanted to see it. A city of dead people.
Whether by fool's luck or wise design, we have avoided the apocalypse. Maybe On the Beach had a little something to do with that. Come back to the autumn of 1957 and some legacies of that season.
To shake some sense into, I wonder, is the phrase an Americanism? I'm going to shake some sense into your head. But just how much shaking does it take to produce sense? And what do you get if you shake too hard? Our premise tonight was that America, in the fall of 1957, was all shook up. That being the case, did it shake some sense into us, or what?
By November, the 101st Airborne was withdrawn, but the State National Guard was federalized and remained until spring. And in September of '58, Governor Faubus tried another ploy.
I have ordered closed the senior high schools of Little Rock.
The schools were closed for a year, reopened in 1959. Central High was integrated. Faubus flourished. He was re-elected 5 more times. His intransigence gave heart to segregationists throughout the South. Federal force was called upon repeatedly to protect the civil rights and the safety of blacks. Central High School has been integrated, peaceful, and proud for years now. 58% black, 60% of its graduates going on to college. Faubus is a footnote.
In September of 1957, nobody could have imagined that in December of 1986, American Bandstand would still be on the air, and with Madison Avenue close on its heels. I got my 501 blue. The spare change of the 5017 multiplied and multiplied until in 1986, teenagers spent nearly $30 billion. Spent, not earned.
You never saw a car like the 58 Edsel.
The Edsel cost the Ford Motor Company about $400 million. It survived for 2 years, then died unmourned and unloved. Only its name lives on. The funny-sounding name for a funny-looking car, still a synonym for failure. Cars, like politicians, can endure almost anything but ridicule.
Sputnik went up in October. Then a second Soviet satellite, this one carrying a dog, went up in November, and the red flag went up in America. This is what the president said.
One of our greatest and most glaring deficiencies is the failure of us in this country to give high priority enough to scientific education and to the place of science in our national life.
In December, we launched our first satellite. It blew up on the pad. But by 1958, we'd learned. Explorer 1 was the beginning. Now the sky is filled with weather, telephone, television, and spy satellites, with more to come. In fact, there are so many satellites up there that it's almost impossible to photograph the night sky and get a picture that does not include at least one satellite trail. Sputnik changed American education, too. Congress increased federal aid to science and education, and, well, one thing led to another.
Right here?
Well, there it is, the way it was for a couple of months in the autumn of 1957. The institution most shaken by the events of that season was the Little Red Schoolhouse, the educational establishment. After Sputnik, the cry of back to basics was heard in the land. More physics, more math, more facts. Well, they were certainly more important than basket weaving and driver's ed. But were they more important than the arts, the humanities, the social sciences? That debate continues to this day. In the South, black students simply wanted the best education they were entitled to, whether it was calculus or glee club. And in Little Rock, 9 brave children shook the tree until the fruit fell.
The 23rd edition of Webster's Dictionary calls Edsel a popular synonym for loser. The dictionary, like most of us, has missed the point. The Edsel wasn't a loser, it was a prototype. The first car designed and built by advertising, bookkeeping, and market research. Not to run well, but to sell well. It did neither. Sadly, it also didn't discourage the market researchers and bookkeepers. To them, the Edsel was a practice run, and with enough practice, they seemed damn near to have perfected the trick of making profit the real product. In 1986, a great number of American companies are no longer in business to produce cars or TV sets or soap or movies or soft drinks. They produce profit, which accounts for some of the cars, TV sets, soap, movies, and soft drinks. These days, if it sells, it's good, not the other way around. And if you still believe Edsel is a synonym for loser, check the 1986 price of a 1957 Edsel. Then ask for a refund on your Webster's Dictionary. And so it goes.
These things also happened in the fall of 1957.
The Milwaukee Braves won the World Series, beating the Yankees in 7 games.
Francis Cardinal Spellman was appointed as the first military vicar of the United States.
In Nevada, the Atomic Energy Commission detonated the first recorded underground nuclear explosion.
In Haiti, Papa Doc, Francois Duvalier, was re-elected president.
Dag Hammarskjöld was unanimously re-elected as Secretary General of the United Nations General Assembly.
James Hoffa, under indictment for perjury, was elected president of the Teamsters Union.
Sophia Loren and Carlo Ponti were married by proxy. Bing Crosby and Catherine Grant were married in person.
Louis B. Mayer, Christian Dior, and Harry Teets, the warden of San Quentin Prison, died.
On September 18th, Robin Horlick, our world production assistant, was born.
Associate producer Jody Abramson was born on September 12th. For the Our World Study Guide, write to Community Relations, ABC, 1330 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10019.
For a transcript of this broadcast, send $3 to Our World Transcripts, 2 John Street.